What would you think if I told you there exists a village where phones stop working and cars completely freeze in an hour? A place where you have to leave the engine running for entire days, otherwise you'll never start again in your life? I'm talking about Oymyakon, the coldest inhabited village in the world, where the thermometer shows minus 60 degrees almost every day. Today, I'm taking you with me on a journey through 15 secrets that will make you understand what it really means to survive extreme cold. If you love documentaries about countries and people's cultures, subscribe to the channel and turn on the bell so you don't miss this incredible journey. But there's something you need to know before continuing. At the end, I'll reveal to you the ancient shamanic wisdom that allows these people to survive. You'll discover why they don't fight nature, but live in harmony with it. And this will change your way of seeing cold forever. Get ready, because we're about to enter the coldest inhabited place on Earth, together with me. Number 15. Welcome to the village where time has frozen. This is the coldest inhabited settlement in the entire world. This Siberian village experiences freezing temperatures for at least 8 months a year. From above, the village looks almost abandoned because it's so cold that nobody goes outside unless strictly necessary. When you're there, your fingertips burn from the frost. The cold strikes not only people and living animals, it literally freezes every form of life. Phones stop working properly and turn off by themselves without warning. Cars left in the street completely freeze within a few hours, becoming useless blocks of metal. Fruit and vegetables don't grow because the ground is frozen all year without any possibility of agricultural cultivation. If you take a 7-hour flight east from Moscow, you first arrive in Yakut, the capital of Russia's coldest region. After hours of driving through lunar landscapes, you finally reach Oymyakon, the coldest village in Siberia and the entire world. There the thermometers show minus 60 degrees Celsius almost every single day of the year without respite. When you're there, it feels like being on another planet completely different from the Earth we know. Number 14. 800 souls in a desert of ice. About 800 people live in Oymyakon, scattered over a territory of 1.5 square kilometers of frozen land. It's almost impossible to see another person outside the houses. It's as if time itself has frozen here. The normal temperature in this village fluctuates between minus 50 and minus 60 degrees Celsius, constantly all year. It's really so cold that the mind struggles to imagine it if you've never experienced it on your skin. The soil in this region remains frozen all year without exceptions. The permafrost layer extends for hundreds of meters. To survive the cold, the pipes run from a central coal boiler in the village to individual houses. The centralized heating system is the only available heat source and must run non-stop 24 hours a day. Even a brief failure could plunge the entire village into a frozen disaster that would kill everyone within hours. Can you imagine such a life? Write me in the comments if you could survive even just 1 week in this place. Number 13. The day starts in total darkness. The day always starts early in Oymyakon, long before the pale sun rises on the frozen Siberian horizon. Even though the sun rises around 10 in the morning, people have to perform their routines while it's still dark. Inside the houses, some rooms function both as storage spaces and as natural refrigerators for food. For breakfast, they often eat high-calorie foods like fatty pancakes with jam and abundant butter. Since temperatures fluctuate between minus 50 and minus 60 degrees, the body constantly consumes energy to stay warm. Fatty foods are the most efficient source of energy needed to survive in this extreme and merciless environment. Since they require more time to be digested, fatty foods sustain energy production for entire hours. In other words, the body continues to maintain its temperature thanks to food that acts as biological fuel. Number 12. Water is transported in blocks of ice. Access to water is extremely difficult in Oymyakon and requires daily effort that we cannot imagine. The permafrost, the ground frozen all year, makes it impossible to lay and maintain any type of water piping. Residents must transport blocks of ice cut from the river to their homes to drink and wash. They go to the frozen river, cut 30-kilogram blocks and return home on sleds every day. They store the blocks in a cold room inside the house or outside in the garden under the snow. When families need water, they take a block from the garden and bring it inside the house to the warmth. The block is then slowly melted in a large barrel to produce usable drinking water for all needs. This way, local people have access to clean water, even though obtaining it is incredibly difficult. Number 11. Winter lasts almost all year. Winter in Oymyakon lasts almost all year without significant interruptions. Only for 3 months does the ice partially melt. Even if water pipes were installed in houses, the water inside them would freeze, instantly becoming unusable. People meet their daily needs, like washing hands or cooking, with water stored in advance in barrels. The lack of plumbing infrastructure means that basic sanitary services like showers and bathrooms aren't available in houses. Small unheated huts built in house courtyards are used for physiological needs even at -60. There's no sewer system in the village. If someone needs to use the bathroom, they must wear layers of heavy clothes. They must move quickly to avoid freezing, even though the distance from house to hut is very short. It's not a comfortable experience having to go out in such extreme cold in the heart of night for physiological needs. I spoke with inhabitants who told me about terrible accidents caused by these moments of exposure to frost. Does this seem like an impossible life to you? Yet 800 people live it every day for entire generations without ever complaining. Number 10. Furs are a matter of survival. In daily life, people in Oymyakon wear special thermal clothing, thick furs, and heavy leather boots. In such a cold region, modern synthetic clothing is often inadequate to protect the body from deadly frost. Furs, on the other hand, naturally trap air, creating an insulating layer that no synthetic material can match. So when you wear authentic fur, body heat loss is minimal even at extreme temperatures. Furthermore, the air spaces in the inner layer of fur trap body heat, keeping you warm for hours. The oily hairs on the outer layer repel freezing wind and snow, preventing moisture from penetrating. Thus, fur provides thermal insulation and waterproofing in a single natural garment perfectly adapted to the climate. This characteristic of furs is much more effective than any synthetic coat produced by modern Western technology. Furs and skins naturally derived from animals, making them a more accessible and abundant resource than imported products. Number 9. Meat is worth more than vegetables. The soil in Yakutsk and throughout the territory of Oymyakon is not fertile for any type of cultivation. This is because plants and animals cannot decompose and enrich the ground frozen all year, without exceptions. For this reason, people in the Oymyakon region always desire fresh vegetables and fruit that they cannot have. Here, vegetables and fruit are much more expensive than meat due to the difficulty of transport and preservation. The inhospitable climate and high transport costs make a meat-oriented diet imperative for survival. Agriculture is impossible here, so livestock farming is the main source of sustenance for all families. To survive, local people raise Yakut horses and cattle resistant to the region's extreme cold. They benefit from the meat, milk and skin of these animals, which are essential for daily life. Animals are the most important necessity for survival in this frozen region isolated from the world. This is why herders wrap cows' udders in thick cloths to protect them from freezing. If the animals are damaged by cold, human life here would quickly end without possibility of survival. Number 8. Yakut horses are a wonder of nature. This part of the river is surprisingly not frozen. But obviously there's a scientific reason for this natural phenomenon. Underground spring water merges with the river, preventing it from freezing completely, even at extreme temperatures. These are Yakut horses, a unique breed in the world. Conditions here are so harsh that only they have adapted. They don't need heated shelters like other horses. They can withstand temperatures down to minus 70 degrees. Unlike normal horses, they're short in stature. This makes it easier for them to survive during winter. Their short bodies allow them to share heat over smaller areas, reducing overall thermal dispersion. Their bodies are fat and round because their fur is incredibly thick and insulating, like a natural blanket. They also have very long hooves that allow them to stand on frozen ground for long periods without damage. These horses aren't captured in the wild. They're deliberately bred by humans for their survival needs. More precisely, horses are bred mainly for their meat, which is a fundamental food resource. Horse meat is very popular here. As you can see, it's quite fatty and rich in essential nutrients. It's full of useful vitamins and minerals that aren't found in any other food available in the region. Since there's no fruit or vegetables, people in Yakutsk get necessary vitamins from animal meat. What do you think about eating horse meat? Write me in the comments if you would do it to survive in such a place. Number 7. Ice fishing is a sacred ritual. This is why fishing is very common throughout Siberia as a primary source of protein and nutrients. Here, fishing is done by breaking thick ice with traditional tools, passed down from generation to generation. In places like Oymyakon, ice fishing isn't just a means of sustenance but also a cultural activity. It's a social and almost ceremonial activity that unites communities during the long winter months of isolation. With temperatures down to minus 50 degrees, ice fishing requires engineering, patience and traditional knowledge. In Yakutia, almost all major rivers and lakes freeze completely from November to late April. The ice is between 1.5 and 2 meters thick, so fishing requires drilling through enormous layers. You must correctly identify where fish are located in the water layers under the thick ice. Tools like metal-tipped spears, sharp axes, and iron picks are used to cut the ice. Fishermen usually prefer river bends, stream crossings, or specific points in the middle of the lake. Yakut fishermen find these points by listening to the sound of water under the ice with expert ear, or by remembering fishing spots from previous years passed down orally from father to son for generations. Fish caught freeze instantly as soon as they're extracted from water. They're eaten immediately or stored frozen. Most of the time, fish is eaten raw according to a tradition called stroganina by locals. Number 6. Eating raw fish is a survival strategy. In the Oymyakon region, eating raw fish isn't just a dietary habit, but a true lifestyle. It's based on deep climatic, cultural, and biological reasons that have developed over thousands of years. The Yakut tradition of eating raw fish is called stroganina and has been practiced for centuries in this region. When you cook fish, some of the beneficial fatty acids, vitamin D, and enzymes are destroyed by heat. In places like Yakutia, where sunlight is scarce for entire months, vitamin D is extremely precious. Raw fish provides these vitamins and fats in their most natural and bioavailable form for the organism. Thus, eating raw fish is a biological adaptation strategy for people living in this geography. If you have an unlucky fishing day, you can buy frozen fish in the markets of Oymyakon and Yakutsk. People get fish from markets like these to meet their nutritional needs during winter. However, keep in mind that the road to the city center will be mostly foggy with poor visibility. Number 5. Cars never turn off in Oymyakon. Oymyakon and Yakutsk also present a great challenge when it comes to surviving in daily traffic. The air is freezing and car exhaust fumes cool down, creating a foggy and dangerous atmosphere. Before automobiles existed, people used horses, oxen, and reindeer to move around the region. The cold is so severe that even the most robust vehicles become unusable without proper precautions. If a car is left outside for just 1 hour without starting the engine, it will freeze completely. People use jet heaters to warm their cars before attempting to start them in the morning. Some people in that region never turn off the ignition and leave the engine running all the time. In extremely cold regions like Oymyakon, Keeping the engine running isn't just a habit but a necessity. Turning off an engine in such cold temperatures means you might not be able to restart it easily ever again. Engine oil freezes, the battery loses electricity, gasoline solidifies in the vehicle's tanks. For this reason, taxi drivers in the region start vehicles early and leave them running until evening. Number 4. Showering is a weekly luxury. In the village of Oymyakon, the bathing routine doesn't start by turning on the tap, but by cutting firewood. Village inhabitants shower once a week, not by choice but by necessity of survival. They rinse by pouring water over themselves and dressing quickly not to lose accumulated body heat. They wash quickly in Russian-style baths called banya, an ancient tradition of this region. In their homes, they heat water in large wood-fired boilers that burn for entire hours. Hot water is poured into a bucket or basin, then the person is washed quickly. During extremely cold winter periods, it can even be risky to take a complete shower. So washing the whole body is less common during the coldest months of the year for safety reasons. Some people take ice baths every morning, but this is more a ritual practice than hygienic. Ice baths aren't a substitute for normal bathing for the people of Oymyakon, but a spiritual ritual. Number 3. Laundry is done once a week. Similarly, people do laundry once a week according to established family traditions. Many families have the tradition of washing clothes on weekends when there's more available time. Water is usually obtained from the river, melted snow, or delivered by tank trucks when available. In winter, they melt snow near the stove to prevent water from freezing before use. A bucket of water is precious, so laundry is carefully planned not to waste anything. Water from melted ice is boiled on a stove until it reaches the desired temperature. Hot water is then poured into a large cauldron where clothes are hand washed with detergent. It's not possible to dry laundry outside in winter because it freezes and hardens within minutes. Laundry is usually dried inside the house near the stove that burns all day. This makes the house humid and uncomfortable, but there's no other possible solution in this climate. Number 2. Surviving means living in harmony with nature. In Oymyakon, survival is possible not by challenging nature, but by living in harmony with its laws. The people of Yakutsk use ancient shamanic wisdom to live according to the rules of cold instead of fighting it. Here, even the harshest winters are faced with spiritual rituals and not with fear or resistance. With the belief that nature gives as much as it takes, this isn't resistance but a way of coexisting. I spoke with village elders who explained to me how cold is a teacher and not an enemy. It teaches you respect, patience and gratitude for every day of life you manage to snatch from the frost. This millennial philosophy is what has allowed generations to survive where others would have failed. Number 1. The lesson of Oymyakon for the modern world. Oymyakon teaches us something fundamental about human nature and our capacity for extreme adaptation. 800 people live where most of us would die within hours without adequate protection. They don't have advanced technology. They don't have modern comforts, yet they survive for generations in this frozen hell. Their secret isn't brute force, but wisdom accumulated over centuries of coexistence with cold. They eat what nature offers, dress with what animals provide, live according to natural rhythms. They don't fight winter, but accept it as part of their daily existence without ever complaining. This is a powerful lesson for all of us who live in heated cities, complaining about the slightest discomfort. Oymyakon reminds us that human beings are capable of adapting to any condition if they have the will. And it reminds us that nature deserves respect, not domination, because in the end, it's always nature that wins. We've traveled together through 15 secrets about Oymyakon, a complete documentary on the coldest inhabited village in the world. Which of these revelations struck you most? Personally, I was fascinated by the shamanic philosophy of living with cold. This journey through Siberian frost, Yakut horses and survival traditions made me reflect on human resilience. Write me in the comments which secret surprised you most and if you could survive even just 1 week in Oymyakon. If you like this documentary about countries, subscribe to the channel because the next journey will take us to another extreme land. Hit like, share this video with those who love documentaries about people's cultures, and turn on the bell so you don't miss anything. See you in the next journey around the world, explorer.